Hello, vinyl fans. Welcome back to Vinyl Fetish, the Vinyl Fetish Club, where we are talking about the 100 albums that should be in your collection, at least according to me. 100 essential albums that should be held in your hands in vinyl. We're still going to do the special Taylor Swift deep dive episode because of the crazy weather we've had. I've had a little trouble accessing our Taylor Swift expert, who I believe is buried in a snowbank on the other side of the Willamette River, and we'll get to her shortly. Dig her out and do our Taylor Swift deep dive. But I want to go back into our 100 albums with something. Speaking of well-known, influential female artists, I really wanted to talk about an album that has been a top 10 favorite album of mine for forever, which is Kate Bush's 1982 album, The Dreaming. Bought at Turtle Records when it came out in the fall of 1982, where I worked. I worked at the Memorial Drive Turtles Records in the fall of 82. This album has a lot of meaning to a lot of people, and it's something that's only grown in stature over the years. 1982 was a long time ago for a lot of people. Another century ago. This was a record that built on her career as a very sort of independent, unique, almost underground artist. She was discovered by David Gilmour of Pink Floyd when she was just a teenager. And her first record, The Kick Inside, this is the American version, came across my radar because of the strange videos, especially for the song Wuthering Heights. And I immediately thought, this woman is from another planet. Who is this strange English female? And so I started following her right from the first album on, and each album, as we like to see in the artists that we love, whether it's the Beatles or Bowie or whoever, grew and evolved and changed and started to incorporate not just kind of English themes about Cathy on the Moor with Heathcliff, but more sort of substantial stories that were turned into almost like alternative universes. Like each song became sort of this alternative world of Russian grandmothers and, all kinds of strange stories. She was one of the first solo artists, to really take the synthesizer into a new level. So this is 1982. 1980, if you think of 1980, that was the Pleasure Principle album by Gary Newman. Here on my car, and that was a very cold, sort of robotic record. Also one of my favorites. We'll probably end up talking about that album at some point. But it represented the sort of the sterileness that a lot of punk rock and folk music, and was sort of rebelling against this sort of robotic synthesizer music. When the Fairlight synthesizer comes on board, the synthesizer in the early 80s is still a relatively new instrument for music. We only start getting it with like the Monkees and the Beatles. The Monkees and the Beatles and the Byrds in the 1960s were about it when it came to the use of Beatles and when it came to the use of the synthesizer in the late 1960s. So we're not that far down the road, but all of a sudden there is this new technology to create these incredible soundscapes that envision these alternative worlds. And there is this wonderful kind of thread through the songs on this record. This is something that it doesn't sound like anything else. It doesn't sound like any of her other records. It doesn't sound like anything that was happening in 1982, and it doesn't sound like anything that's happening in the 21st century. The world that she creates around these themes. Some of them are kind of set in time. Like there's a song that's kind of a throwback to an old crime movie, film noir film. Mentions Humphrey Bogart. There's a song about Houdini and the kiss, passing. I don't know if you can see that. Passing the key to Houdini. His wife passing the key to unlock Houdini from his trap in the kiss. That take you back to another time. And it's a term that's used now that wasn't used in 1982, but I'm going to sort of try to link these two concepts. It's kind of a steampunk record. Steampunk, supposedly, as I understand it, is kind of a reimagining of 19th century Europe with modern technology and science fiction ideas and kind of creating this alternative path. Well, before the steampunk was steampunk, Kate Bush was doing it on this record, creating these alternative sort of Victorian England stories, but in this high-tech world. There's also lots of contemplation about the nature of knowledge. The song Sat in Your Lap. There's, unlike most of her records, there's not a lot of love songs on it. There's songs about sort of the experience of the Aborigines. That's the title track, The Dreaming, that has a didgeridoo on it. You get some Irish music, and including one of the pipers from the violinists from the Chieftains plays on this record. And you have this hodgepodge of future and past, and in the case of the didgeridoo, ancient instruments all coming together to create these alternative universes that we would now just say, oh, that's very steampunk. This record was not a hit. It had 5 singles on it, that did kind of nothing in the United States, sort of bubbled under the top 40 in Britain, but was seen as too weird. It was too weird. You couldn't hear the song on the radio in 1982 is like, Flock of Seagulls era. So there wasn't really anything for the public to latch onto. The fans, especially those of us that worked in record stores, played the hell out of this record. And it didn't really advance her as a pop artist or as a sort of well-known musician. It just kind of created this underground culture that a lot of people gravitated to. And it begs the question about art and the ability to time travel through music. And is there this power that artists have to take us to places that never really existed, to worlds that are imagined past or alternative universes? And there is a art, and this is one of the reasons I'm doing this channel, is there is an art to album listening. Because these days, you go onto Spotify or Amazon or wherever you listen to your music, and just iTunes, just sort of stream it in the background while you're doing whatever, while you're checking your Instagram, and it's just kind of this background experience. There was this art that starts really in the 1960s and then goes through, I think, to the mid-1990s, at least, until sort of the advent of the internet, that where people would just sort of listen to a record and imagine being in that world, being in the world of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, being in the world of Dark Side of the Moon, being in the world of Quadrophenia, like being in these alternative places that these albums were meant to evoke, to send us to some other place. And in that sense, it was an opportunity to be present, right? You're not thinking about things that you did in the past. You're not wondering about what you're going to do tomorrow. You're just sort of in the moment of listening to this music and imagining the world. And you're not getting your version of it, or you're not getting the artist version of it. You're getting your version of it. It's like not that what Kate Bush wanted us to think about when we listen to this album. It's what is being processed through our experience and our understanding of the world and how we hear the words. I mean, sometimes you mishear the lyrics in a song and it sends you in a completely different direction. That's totally cool because that's your experience. It's, you don't have to go to a website to say, this is what the song means. Psychoanalyzes everything, and then you listen to the music and you're like, okay, this is what they were talking about. It's your personal experience of this world that is created by the soundscape. And there are great albums that do that. I mean, I think Dark Side of the Moon is one of the best albums that create a mental place to go to. In the 1980s, I don't think there's any better album than Kate Bush's The Dreaming. She has not had a fairly productive schedule in terms of recording. It's been years since she's had an album out. Every year at the beginning of the year, I think maybe this will be the year there'll be a new Kate Bush album. Please, God, let there be a new Kate Bush album. So she had a record out in 1980 that was sort of, started to bring in the synthesizers a little bit. But it was really the follow-up to this album. This comes out in 82. The follow-up that comes up in 1985, Hounds of Love, that has the songs that people now associate with Kate Bush, like Running Up the Hill, which became massive thanks to Stranger Things, and even went up the charts, put Kate Bush on the radar of a lot of kids who weren't alive when these records first came out. and now there's a lot of people who know Kate Bush. But even though this is the record that gets the attention, or at least is on people's sort of mental picture when they think of Kate Bush, the one that came before it is the one that really creates this world that she then inhabits, with all these characters and all these stories and all these places, real and imagined. And I would just like to, I just wanted to do a quick, edition of this album. You can talk about it all day long, but the point I'm trying to make is the only way you can talk about this record is have your own personal experience with it. I can tell you what I think all these songs mean, or what Wikipedia says they mean, or what the unique instrumentation of these songs are. It's just my take on it. The beauty of this record is you put it on side one and you launch into some place that only you will ever go to. And I don't know what the magic is on this record, but it opens a door. It opens a door into a whole nother world. And I don't think there are many records like that do. So this is Kate Bush. Love talking about her, love listening to her, and discovering new things. This album always offers something new to me. I thought I understood it, and then I did some reading about it, and I'm like, that's what that song's about? Well, that's what that instrument is? There's so much to discover on this record, and I love the world that she creates for us to step into. So that's another one of our 100 albums that should be in your collection. Again, just according to me. We're going to do some more of those coming up. I'm really excited because I'm staying on this theme of female artists. We had Rosanne Cash last time. We've got Kate Bush this time. Next is a record that is even more personal to me. That's next in our count of 100 albums. We're going to talk about the Runaways. And boy, do I have a lot to say about the Runaways. I got a lot of stories about the Runaways. I got a lot of personal connections to the Runaways. But we're going to talk about the Runaways' second album, Queens of Noise, from 1977. That's coming up. Be sure to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And stick to the channel for other videos, including our deep dive into why Taylor Swift. Why Taylor Swift? That's coming up. All right, everybody. Oh my God, this record matters so much. I love the world that we get through Kate Bush. This record matters. This music matters. You matter. So let's talk about it.